By me going through it is one thing, but you do it by yourself is a whole other thing. Okay, so you really need to try by yourself, okay? All the questions you realize in all the different mock papers, it all tests you the same concept again and again and again. Okay, so you need to be very familiar with all the different concepts. Very, very familiar. Okay, the first one is standard form. This kind of question asks you to find the difference between two different numbers in standard form. Just use calculator. Okay, so just use calculator for this one. 5.6 times 10 to the power of 3 minus 7.3 times 10 to the power of negative 2. Okay, so if you enter this in your calculator, you are going to get 5599.927. Okay, so how do you change it to standard form? Okay, you have to understand that standard form means that the first number you put down must be in between, must be less than 1 but must be more than 0. Okay, so you're going to write this as a number 1, 2, 3. You go back 3 dots. So it's 5.599 times 10. Because you went back 3 times, 1, 2, 3, this is 10 to the power of 3. Okay, but read the question very carefully. They say leave your answer to 2 significant figures. So your final answer will just be 5.6 times 10 to the power of 3. Okay, now in the question sometimes they may not give you this thing very nicely. This one they really tell you find the value of this thing. But some of the keywords in the exam could be find the difference between this and this. Just remember, difference means the larger number minus the smaller number. Okay, just remember, difference means the larger number minus the smaller number. Use calculator to simplify, and then you work out what is the answer. Okay, what is the standard form? Alright, okay, moving on. Question number 2. Bob is considering Bank A and Bank B to invest his year-end bonus of 12,000 for a period of 8 years. This one, basically, we're just testing you 2 different concepts. Whether you are familiar with simple interest or whether you are you know the formula for compound interest. Okay, simple interest, I have no doubt that many of you will know how to do it. Simple interest, what is the formula? PRT over 100. P is the principal, so it's 12,000. R is the interest rate per year, 1.88. Time T is the number of years. So we know this is a period of 8 years, so I'm going to times 8. I'm going to divide this by 100. So I'll enter this in my calculator. 12,000 times 1.88 times 8. I'm going to divide by 100. So I'm going to get 1804.80. So I know this is the interest that is earned. Alright? Simple interest formula only calculates the interest earned. Okay? Next one, I'm going to use the compound interest formula. The compound interest formula is written as A is equals to P1 plus R over 100 to the power of N. P is the same thing. P refers to the principal, which is 12,000. But what does R represent? What does R represent? Jolie, what does R represent? The amount of? The rate that is compounded per? Yes. In this case, it's the rate that is compounded per month, not per year. Because the question says that it is compounded monthly. Okay, so what is the answer for this one? What is the rate that it is being compounded per month? Xiaowen? 1.8 divided by 12, absolutely. Okay, so this is your R. And what is your N? Sherry, what is your N over here? 96. Okay, how do you get 96? What times 12? 8 times 12, absolutely. Because in a period of 8 years, each year has 12 months. Okay, so the number of compounding period will be this. Okay, so you just need to enter this in your calculator, and this one, enter it carefully because many of you tend to make mistakes when you enter it in. Divide by 12, 100 to the power of 96. Okay, so you should get 13,857.11. Leave to 2 decimal place. Okay, so which bank should Bob invest his money in? Okay, we need to calculate the interest. Remember compound interest formula. A represents the principal plus the interest. If you just want to calculate the interest portion only, 13857.11 minus away the principal. We know that they earn 1,857.11. Okay, so which should you put your money in? Bank B. Why? Because the interest is a little bit more. Alright, so this is how you would do it. Okay, the challenging part and the part that most of you go wrong is what is the N, what is the R. This is the part that a lot of you go wrong. If you get this correct, you shouldn't get this kind of question wrong. Guaranteed this kind of question will always come out one. You see all the mock papers, always they test you on this. Okay, every single school, every single random school that I pull out always test you the same thing one. Okay, so you know, in an exam, what can they do? They only change the numbers only. Okay, they only change the numbers. Alright, moving on. This is an indices question. Given that 27 divided by 3 to the power of negative 15 is equals to 81k, find k. So this type of question, what do you need to do first? What is the first step that you need to do? Change everything to the same base. So Rudra, can you help us out? 27, how do I change it to, first which base do you want to change it to? 3, good. So 27 is what? 3 to the power of 3. Okay, so I have 3 to the power of 3 divided by 3 to the power of negative 15 is equals to 81. 81, Danielle? Is what? 81 is 3 to the power of what? 4. So 3 to the power of 4k. Okay, so once you get here, then what is, how do I simplify the left hand side? I have 3 base 3 divided by another base 3. Same base, divide means what happens to the powers? KD? What happens to the powers here? Yes, so I'm going to get 3 minus negative 15, 3, 4k. So I'm going to get 18 is equals to 3 to the power of 4k. I can directly compare the powers now. 18 is equals to 4k, therefore k is 18 divided by 4. Leave your answer is a proper fraction. 18 divided by 4, that means it's 4.5. Alright. Okay, then the next one, I have given that x plus 8 to the power of 3 is equals to 64, x plus 2 to the power of 3, find x over y. So this one is a little bit different from the normal questions that you will see, but what is one method that we could use to do this? Okay, now you notice that this is to the power of 3, this is also to the power of 3. Now, can 64 be written as something to the power of 3? What? 4 to the power of 3? Let's. Yeah, okay, it's 4 to the power of 3. So I'm going to have x plus 8 to the power of 3 is 4 to the power of 3, y plus 2 to the power of 3. Now, you notice here that this is both to the power of 3. So really, we can multiply the 4 in. It is the same as this is 4 y plus 2, the whole thing to the power of 3. Am I right? Okay, so let us simplify this expansion. So I'm going to have x plus 8 cubed is equals to 4y plus 8 to the power of 3. Okay, then since both sides is to the power of 3, would it not make sense if I can just compare the inside? So I know that x plus 8 is equals to 4y plus 8. Okay, so I can directly compare. And since I have an 8 on both sides, I can conveniently minus 8 on both sides. I'm going to get x is equals to 4y. So if x is equals to 4y, what is x divided by y? Divide both sides by y. X over y is equals to 4. Okay, so this is how we do this question. Can? Okay, am I going too fast? Am I going too fast? Basically, I'm just comparing the powers, trying to make the powers the same. I compare what's inside, okay, under the powers. Okay, and then I compare it, I try to fit to the question that they actually asked me to do. Okay, moving on. Question number 4, coordinate geometry. This one is pretty important. You better make sure you know how to do this question by heart, because there will be several questions on coordinate geometry and they're all testing you the same thing. Okay, coordinate geometry at its core is going to test you on what is a straight line. Can you find the gradient? Can you find what is the y-intercept? Okay, so let's look at part A. Show that the equation of the line yz, so yz is this line over here. Show that this equation is y equals to negative half x plus 7 over 2. So when we look at this equation, we know that this half represents the gradient. We know that this represents the y-intercept. Okay, this is what we know. So the first thing first, I'm going to find the gradient. The gradient of yz would simply be my y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now this is a formula that you must memorize by heart. Once you memorize this thing, we're just going to apply it. So it's 0 minus 5. I take this 0 minus 5 divided by 7 minus negative 3. So I'm going to get negative 5 divided by 10. So it's negative half. Okay? I check, indeed, it is negative half. The next one, I want to find the y-intercept. So I have my equation y equals to negative half x plus c. I just need to substitute in one of the values. I think this is the easiest to substitute. 7, 0. Okay? So what does this 7, 0 mean? This refers to the value of x. This refers to the value of y. So I'm going to substitute it in. Y is 0. Negative half times 7 plus c. So therefore, c is 7 over 2. So I have shown. Okay, I have shown that the equation is indeed y equals to negative half x plus 7 over 2. Next, find the coordinates of w. Over here at w, if I have to write in a coordinate form, what information do I already know? Okay, I know that the value of x at this point is equals to 0. I don't know what is y. But I already know the equation of this line. This line is y is equals to negative half x plus 7 over 2. Okay, so I'm going to write down this equation. Y is negative half x plus 7 over 2. At the point w, I know that x is 0. I don't know what is y. So I'm going to substitute in here to find out what is my y. So my y, when my x is 0, is just 7 over 2. Okay, so the coordinates of w will simply be 0, 7 over 2. Or you can write it as 3.5. Okay, so this is part B, part I. Next one, what is the length of WZ? WZ is over here. I'm going to replace this thing with 3.5. This one should be easy. Let me just write the working here. WZ, the formula is, yeah, you can either do X, okay, or you can even do Y. Y2 minus Y1 square plus X2 minus X1 square. Or you can do the other way around. Okay? Up to you. Okay? So when you substitute this in, you just need to enter this in your calculator. 0 minus 3.5 square plus 7 minus 0 square. Okay, so you enter in the calculator 3.5 square plus 7 square. You square root it, you're gonna get 7.83. Leave your answer to 3 sig fig. Do not leave your answer as a cert. Okay, do not leave your answer as a cert, unless you are doing intermediate working. If it's the final answer, then leave to 3 sig fig. Alright, so that's it for coordinate geometry. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This one. Okay, if you get it wrong, then you are in deep trouble. Okay, now before we go to the question, let us go one round and let's see figure 1. What kind of general shape this is? This is a, let's start from the back, Rudra. What do you think this shape is? It's a quadratic. Is this a smiley face or sad face? Negative coefficient. Great. So I know that this one has to be of the form y equals to negative, maybe negative x squared. The coefficient basically must be negative. And of course it's above, so maybe it's plus c plus some random number. I don't care what it is. Okay? Now this graph should be very familiar because this is a, you think about it, this graph is as x go up and up, it's just increasing, increasing, increasing. Okay, so means what kind of graph is this, Xiaowen? Can you help us out? Exponential graph. This is of the form y equals to ax. Okay, so this is an exponential graph. It goes bigger and bigger and bigger. This is what we learn at logarithms. It's just the inverse of logarithms. Okay? Then what is the next one? Sherry? What kind of graph is this? This is of the form y. Okay, if I say this is of the form y equals to ax to the power of n. Firstly, what is a? Can you give me a value of a? Try. Look at this thing. Don't look at me. Look at this. Okay, first, is the graph always positive? It's always positive, right? Because it's always above the x, right? So means if it's always positive, this value of n over here, right? This value of n over here, right? I want you to think, right? Is it going to be a even number or is it going to be an odd number? No, Sherry, think. Even, okay? So the clue number 1 is this is going to be an even because only when I square it, to the power of 4, to the power of 6, if it's an even, then it's always going to be positive, right? No matter what the number is. For example, negative 1,000, if I square it, it's always going to give me a positive number, okay? Now, but if it's even, there are a few choices only, okay? There are really only a few choices, okay? It could be x to the power of 2, which we know that, can it be x to the power of 2? Can? Can it be x to the power of 2? Sherry? Stay with me. Come. No, right? Because you know x to the power of 2 is a quadratic, right? Yes. Right? Then if it cannot, what else do we learn? X to the power of negative 2. Wow. Correct? So if it's not this one, then it must be this one. Okay? So you know that in this case, this one must be negative 2. Okay? Sherry, we are not done yet. You finish this question. Then, what must the value of A be? A, I don't care about the number. Is it positive or is it negative? Why? If it's negative, what will happen? How will this look like? It will be a reflection. Okay, it will be a reflection if it's negative. Okay, so in this case, I know that my value of a over here is just going to be positive. So this function is going to be like this. Okay, that is how you should go through your head. Okay, let's quickly go through the next one. This graph over here. Okay, the first thing, let's move. Let's pick another one, KD. Okay, let's go down the line. KD, this one is if I have the graph of the general form, right? Y equals to ax to the power of n. Firstly, I have one side is positive, one side is negative. So the n should be odd or even. Even, should be even. Hey, you must know why is it odd, you know? Why is it odd? Yes. Okay, for example, right? If I have x to the power of, let's choose an odd number, x to the power of 3. When my x is somewhere here, let's say if it's 1, 1 to the power of 3 is 1, right? But when my x is somewhere here, negative 1 to the power of 3 gives me negative 1. Okay, so I have one side is positive, one side is negative. Okay, so these are the fundamentals that you need to understand. Okay, so when my power is odd, so you know that this must be odd. So what are your values for it to be odd? Can it be y equals to x? This is odd, right? To the power of 1. Does this look like the graph of y equals to x? If it's y equals to x, it is going to be a straight line because this is of the form y equals mx plus c. So you know definitely not. What other odd things can we have? Y equals to cube. This is a contender. We know that this cannot be. This is odd. Okay. What other odd numbers do we have? Y equals to x negative 1, right? Okay. So really, we only have these two, right? We only have these two that we have learned so far. So which one do you think it is? Which one do you think it is? Is it the cube or is it the negative 1? Okay, I give you a huge hint. Okay, this x to the power of 3 is very similar to x to the power of 2. Okay, if it's x to the power of 3, this part will also look like this. Okay, but the other part will go down. Okay, this is the graph of y x to the power of 3. Okay, so this one is very similar. Can you see to this one? This is the negative power, x to the power of negative 1. Okay, so this one is negative 1. Hey, this is important. This one definitely will be tested one. Cannot escape one. Okay, and what is the value of a here? What is the value of a here? What is the value of a? 1, can be just 1. Okay, now the last one, this one I already gave you the answer. This is of the x to the power of 3. Okay, so now we can straight away get our answer. Part A, this one is figure 1. Okay, no, sorry. This one is figure 5. This one is figure 1. And this one is figure 2. X to the power of half? Yes, it's tested. X to the power of half is square root x. This is under indices.
But this one is not tested for graph.
No, it's not. No, there's no graph for that. I mean, we never test you a graph for this. Never. Okay? Alright, the last question. I asked you guys to come a bit earlier to draw it out. Okay, hopefully you have drawn out. This one, you should get you should get something like this. It's basically a quadratic. Okay, if you haven't drawn it, then go back and draw it. Okay, if you haven't drawn it, then go back and draw it. I want to straight away go and answer the questions. Okay, now, for this one, A, this is 3 marks. Definitely you should be able to get it. Just substitute it inside, enter in your calculator. Part B, what are the key things that we're looking out for? Listen, do not spend too much time drawing the graph, okay? Unless you have a lot of time. If you don't have a lot of time, it's okay. Even if your graph is not smooth, maximum you will minus 1 mark, okay? Maximum you will minus 1 mark, but you still get 2 marks out of 3, okay? Make sure your line cuts through all of the points. It must go through all of the points. That's the key thing that we look out for, okay? Now, This one is a little bit tricky. I don't know when you draw it, right? Do you draw it like me, or do I suspect some of you would have drawn this graph like this. Right? I suspect some of you might have drawn something like that. Okay? Now, how do I know that I'm supposed to have the minimum point here and not the minimum point over there? Okay, how do I know that? Okay? Now, at the minimum point, your graph must be somewhat symmetrical. Okay, that means that at the minimum point, the distance from here to here must be roughly the same as here to here. Okay? So this takes a little bit of experience. Okay, this one takes a little bit of experience. Okay? So once you draw this graph, let us answer the question. From the graph, find the coordinate of the minimum point. What is minimum point? Minimum point just means the lowest point on the graph. Okay, the turning point, exactly. So it is somewhere here. All you have to do is just read off. Okay, just read off, draw dotted lines if you need to, and read off. I want to revisit again. How do you read off this point? I'll show you one example. Between 12 and 16, you know this is 4. Right? But how many small squares do you have? You have 20 small squares. So means if you have 20 units of small squares equals to 4, 1 unit is 0.2. So if you look at this case, if you have 2 units below, here you know is negative 14. If it's 2 units below, then here must be negative 14.4. Okay? So this one, you really have to practice at home counting. Now, I tell you again, the paper that I always give you always have 20 units. But usually in the exam, it's only 10 boxes. Okay? Usually, one big square like this is only 5 boxes. Okay? Not 10. Okay? In this case, this graph paper has 10. Okay, so you must go and count the number of boxes. Don't always assume that each big square is 10. Okay, sometimes it's 5. Or sometimes it's even 4. So go and count. Open our eyes a little bit bigger and count. Alright, so you just read off. I don't think I need to go through the other one. The one that I want to go through is part D. By drawing a tangent at a point x equals to 4. Find x equals to 4 over here. Tangent, just put your ruler, roughly make sure that it cuts it at only one point, at here. Did I draw it at, what is the thing? At x equals 4, sorry, x equals 4, I draw at the wrong point. So I need to put my ruler here. Okay, I roughly make sure that it's equal. I draw the tangent. Tangent means it should cut at only one point. Only at this point. And roughly the distance here must be the same as the distance here. Okay? Then how to find the gradient? How to find the gradient? Find any 2 points. Read off any 2 points and apply the formula. Okay, I'm not going to go through this one. Okay, I'm pretty sure you know how to do it. Just choose any 2 points. Write down the coordinate. For example, I choose this point over here. Okay, then I say, okay, this is 3 and negative 12. I choose another point up there. Maybe I choose here. And then I state the coordinates of here. I just apply the formula. I find the gradient. Okay, don't worry too much about your final answer because we do accept a range of values. Everyone's answer is going to be slightly different and we acknowledge that. We respect that. Okay? Don't worry too much about it. Okay? Next, the last one. This is the part that I really want to go through. Use your graph to solve this equation. How? Now, I already have this graph that is already been drawn. This is the graph that I've already drawn. Okay? And they want me to equals to 5. Actually, this is basically simultaneous equations. Okay? I have this equation. I have this equation. I want to solve them simultaneously. So I need to actually draw out this graph of y is equals to 5. So I just go to my graph. I just use a ruler. Okay, and I draw the graph of y equals to 5. It will be somewhere here. Okay, so I'll draw this. Oops. Draw this out. Your solution is just the point of intersection. Just go and read off the value of x. Okay, go and read off the value of x. Okay? Then the last one, how do we do this? Okay, now, the graph that is given to you is of the form 2x squared minus 7x minus 8. I want you to compare this question over here. Okay, how can we make this plus 5? How can we make this into negative 8?
Minus 13.
Yeah, so I have to minus 13. If I minus 13 there, I also must minus 13 on the other side. So actually all I need to do is to draw out this graph of y is 5x minus 13. Okay, but how do I draw this graph? Okay, all I have to do, just create a table of values. I have my x, I have my y. What do I choose as my x? I look at my graph. My graph is from negative 2 to 6. So I just choose any 3 numbers. I can choose negative 2, 0, and maybe 2. That's easy. Okay, so I'm going to choose x as negative 2, 0, and 2. So what's my corresponding value of y? 5 times negative 2 minus 13. That gives me negative 23. Negative 13. 5 times 2 minus 13. 7. Plot these 3 points on the graph. Draw a straight line. Your solution is the points of Tianyi. Intersection for which one? Your negative 3 for what?
2.
Oh, wait. Maybe I entered wrongly. No? Negative 23 ah. 5 times negative 2 minus negative 3. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Negative 10 minus 13 is negative 23. Oh, for 2, okay. 5 times 2 is 10 minus 13. Yes, negative 3. Thank you. Okay? Can? Okay, just nice. Tianyi, please go off. I promise Mr. Daniel that you'll be back.
I want
4:25.
to It's the way to the center.
Easier.